In today's episode of Locked On Pistons podcast, we are joined by Matt Issa to talk about the Pistons past season, their success, the offseason. What do they need to do moving forward to take the next step? Stay tuned. Today's episode, Locked On Pistons podcast. Let's go.
You are Locked On Pistons, your daily Detroit Pistons podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's the deal? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast. Per usual, I am your host, Koo Cahill. You can find me over on Twitter at Koo Cahill. I've been covering the Detroit Pistons for the Locked On Network over the last 4 years, been a credential media member over the last 3 years. I appreciate all of you guys who make Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. The everydayers out there, I appreciate all of the support. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Today, we have a special guest on, my guy, Matt Issa. You can find him over on Twitter at MattIssa15. He is a writer over at Forbes, sportscasting and Opta analyst, does great work. There's a few player interviews that you've done over the last few years that I very much have enjoyed. You've done some great stuff. Appreciate all the work you put out. Definitely make sure you guys go check him out over on Twitter and all of his work. He does great stuff. Matt, how you doing today, man?
Cool, I'm fantastic. There's something I wanted to wait to admit publicly on the podcast to you.
Okay.
But I don't know if you know this. So me and Koo have known each other for a couple of years now. We were introduced through a mutual friend. Me and him usually end up sitting next to each other
Right.
at Pistons games. But man, I've been waiting secretly for years. I've been waiting for that. You DM'd me a couple of weeks ago to ask me to come on your show. I've been waiting for that seat because I've always wanted to come on Locked On Pistons. Like, all my buddies listen to Locked On Pistons. And I was like, me and Koo are good friends. Like, he knows, like, I work in the industry. Like, why doesn't he ever ask, And so I was just so happy, man.
See, that's my fault. That's my
No,
fault.
no.
I waited too long, bro. See,
Yeah,
that's my fault.
this means more to me than it could ever mean to you. I just want to let you know that, man. Thank you for this.
I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you coming on and taking time out of your day to come on. I know you're a busy guy, especially with all the coaching. Coach Smith, if you're listening to this, you're playing them this year. I'm gonna have to come to one of those games, man, if you haven't listened to today's episode. But let's go ahead and get into it. We'll talk about the Pistons offseason. We'll talk about what they need to do moving forward into their future, how they look. But let's start with this past season. Like you mentioned, we sat together during the playoffs. I believe I went to 2 games. Both games we were sitting next to each other. Spectacular atmosphere in the playoffs. It was great seeing, the Pistons have a playoff game and seeing the crowd get as crazy as it was a fun atmosphere. But wasn't just the playoff. You obviously have to get through the regular season to make it there. And the Pistons had just a surprising and crazy bounce back season off of a 14-win season. Before we get into the playoffs, what shocked you the most? Like, what did you take away from the Pistons season? Were you that shocked at what they did? What were your thoughts?
I knew they would get better. I mean, they brought adults into the room. Tim Hardaway, Fontecchio, Malik Beasley, and who's the last one I'm missing? There's a fourth member. This is bad
Tobias?
market. Tobias, there you go. Hey, Tobias Harris. Yes. Very important, starting power forward. So I knew they needed spacing. They brought in spacing, and they did a good job of bringing in spacing without sacrificing size, right? Tobias is a huge dude. Simone Fontecchio is a huge dude. Beasley and Hardaway are, decent sized guards. Hardaway plays very physical for his size, has a lot of man strength, right? So I knew they'd get better. I didn't think they'd win so many games. I think the big thing was the defense that surprised me the most. Because I look at this team, and like I said, they have like a lot of size. But Hardaway is not known as like a stopper. Tobias is always like, it's always been like a running joke. Like, the theory of Tobias Harris like would have won the 76ers an NBA title, but he's not actually that guy. So there's that. But there's the defense, and like what I loved about this team, and I thought they were doing something that not a lot of teams were taking advantage of. They were really, so the whistle, right? The whistle, I would say, started at the end of the 2024 season, where like referees are like, you know what, man, like we gotta stop calling so many fouls. Like, we gotta let the boys play a little, right? And they continued on to this season. And the Pistons, what they would do is they had a lot of like thick guys, like really like girthy, strong, muscular guys, and they would just like bump you. They would like subtly bump you. They knew they weren't as laterally quick as some teams, but they used that physicality, right? And they used the way the referees were calling the game to their advantage to make up for their lack of lateral quickness. And they would always play a lot of size, right? They always had these big lineups out there. When Cade Cunningham is your point guard, you're playing huge, right? Like, and that was a big reason why, like, a guy like Marcus Sasser didn't get as much run as I thought he would, because he's small and he tries hard on defense. Don't get me wrong, but there's a limitation to that. So I loved that. There was one time, and I figured, like, I always suspected this, right? But I knew it was kind of a point of emphasis for them, because if you look at their, like, shot profile, they give up an average amount of threes, give up an average amount of shots to the rim. So there's nothing like drastic going on there. It's not like they're packing the paint big time and getting lucky with guys missing shots. But anyway, so they were playing a team. I can't remember who it was. They were getting beaten pretty bad. They come back and win. It was a game where, oh man, I'm blanking on his name now. I'm not good with the names. He was like a back end rotation guy. He might have gotten waived towards the end of the season, but he came in the second quarter. They're getting beaten really bad, and they came back and won. And if you looked at their points in the paint throughout the game against the opponent points in the paint, right? They were giving up just a ton of points in the paint in the first quarter. And then as the game went on, they got lower and lower. And so I asked JB, and I was like, did you emphasize like packing the paint? I didn't see it watching live. I obviously didn't have the rewind button there with me, don't have the handy dandy rewind button. But he goes like, no, we just focused on defending the ball more, And so the Pistons, really what they did last year, and I think JB did a great job of really emphasizing that, making a point of emphasis, is they defended the ball so well. They better than most teams. They weren't giving up these automatic advantages and just relying on the help to save them at the end of the day. So I was very, very impressed with their defense. Also very impressed with how well they ran in transition, but the defense is really what got me.
So just stay on that, because the defense, I completely agree with you. The defense shocked me. It really shocked me, because before, like you said, you look at like the roster on paper and you're like, this isn't like the Pistons were a top 6 defense after January 1st. You look at the roster, you're like, this is not, I wouldn't think this is some great defense. And then the Pistons ended up, like you mentioned, just dominating teams defensively. And like you mentioned, they were at the top of the league in transition points, fast break points, points off turnovers. And that's all really generated from their defense. From their defense, just getting them out in transition, whether it's turnovers, securing rebounds, and then pushing. That's really where their offense came from. And I wanted to ask you about the defense, because I know obviously you've watched a ton of the Pistons. Before January, the Pistons had the 28th best defense in the league. In December, it was bad. It was Now they ended up going 5-5 in December towards the back end. Ivey started to play really well offensively, but the defense, the net rating wasn't great. It was still middling. It was like, is this real? Can you believe in this? The defense is so bad. Are they getting lucky? Blah, blah, that kind of thing. Then Ausar Thompson comes back, and he's put in the starting lineup. And after that, the Pistons jump to the 7th best net rating the rest of the year. They have a top 6 defense. They lead the league in points off turnovers. They're at the top of the league in transition points. I know you mentioned and JB did get the most out of Tobias, THJ, and Malik. Whatever you can get out of them, he got the most. How much of an impact do you believe Ausar really had on the defense just turning around midway through the year?
Well, I mean, how much of an impact do you think like the greatest physical specimen we've ever seen would have on a defense? It's what it is. Like him and Amen are probably the greatest like physical athletes I've ever seen. They're so gifted. Just the way they move laterally, their reaction speed, the physicality they can play with, their hands, right? Like it's night and day. And I think I know he's your guy, but I think there was a night and day. There was a little bit of addition by subtraction when Jaden Ivey left the lineup, as much as I hate to say it, because he went in a brutal way. Sorry, that's my dog. But
I deal with the same thing. She's barking. You just can't hear it.
But so I think that helped right now. He was smaller too. He's like 6'4". He's a little smaller than Cade. So getting him out of the lineup, putting in bigger guys, filling that space with bigger minutes. And like I said, the physicality thing, I think the Pistons did so well is like, so, usually, right, when you get beat, right, you have to open up your hips and you're kind of like parallel with the guy driving. Before that change in officiating, if you would try to bump a guy to get back in his way, that's a foul. But like they stopped doing that. So the Pistons, like, you have Tobias Harris. He's slow, but he's strong, right? And so like if he got beat, he would just kind of bump his way back in front and protect the rim. I mean, protect the drive like that. So yeah, I would say, but back to your original question, yeah, Ausar, phenomenal defender. One of the 3-4 best perimeter defenders in the game right now.
Yeah, I think that point you brought up about how they played on drives, especially with like the bigger guys, like with Tobias and even Cade and Ausar, like both of those guys. It was something in the playoffs. I think you noticed that, early on in the series against the Knicks, Ausar was getting into foul trouble. I think a lot of them were from him trying to,
Mhm.
do what you said and kind of ride guys and bump them. And Jalen Brunson's just great at like selling that
Mhm.
contact. He started to get a little smarter, obviously, as the series went on about how, when to pick his spots doing that, how to get away with it, all that. And he had some really good success on Brunson. But I completely agree with you about the size point of the Pistons team building, which is why I'm so interested to see how this season plays out now, because Ivy is back and he's going to get a bunch of the minutes and he's going to hopefully play really well offensively. And hopefully they get the most out of him defensively. I just want to see, can he provide enough defensively with, the physicality that they've trying to sell? Because I like one of the biggest things that I've always wanted with Cade is when you have Cade at point guard, you have the ability to have no one on the court smaller than Cade, and
Mhm.
you can run a lineup of just pure length, physicality, and I love the fact that they have a Cade, Ausar, Tobias, Duren, Stu. Like they just have so they can run lineups where no one on the floor is really like pick onable, for a lack of a
Mhm.
better word. Like you just can't pick on them. So I think that was huge, but I do want to give a ton of credit to JB. I mean, JB got them whatever the most defensively you could have gotten out of Malik Beasley, THJ, like guys who are not good defenders. He got the absolute most out of them. Whatever the most was, that's what JB got. And I think that contributed a lot to their defensive success too.
Yeah, I mean, coaching, just having experience it now firsthand at a much, much smaller scale, but like I've seen firsthand how much coaching means to defense. Like last year, my team, not very good, but we had the second best defense in our conference because my coach was just super creative with his schemes. He really put an emphasis on it. You couldn't play if you didn't defend, right? And I think that same thing with AB. And then plus, just like everybody loved each other and that buy-in. It's just defense is so much about effort, trust, communication, and all those things are just amplified when you're playing with a group of guys you like to work with. The one thing I will say about their defense in the first half of the season, I don't have the numbers pulled up, but I do remember they started out what, like 0-4 this year. They started
Yeah.
out kind of slow, and I remember looking, they had like the unluckiest opponent 3-point shooting in the league at that point, right? And so like I think that played a part in the slow defensive start, and then that finally started to regulate. And obviously, you saw their defense amplify. I don't think that they're the sixth best defense in the league last year. I would say they're probably like the 10th, right? When you like even out the two sides of like being really bad and like really, really excellent. So I would say somewhere in the middle of that, that's still like much better than either you or I could have predicted.
Right. No, definitely. I looked at this roster before the year. And I was like, I don't
Mm.
know how they're going to be good defensively. And
Yeah.
then January rolled around. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, I guess I was wrong. And now I'm can't wait. They got even more size coming into
Hmm.
this year, which we're going to talk about coming up. How does Matt think about this offseason? There's been a lot of there's some Pistons fans who feel like they didn't do enough. Some Pistons fans that think they did do enough. Some are just like bland. Well, this is all right. This is what it is. When we come back, I want to get Matt's thought and if the Pistons did enough this offseason. Stay tuned. Coming up. Today's episode is brought to you guys by Game Time. I've told you guys many of times before, I'm a procrastinator. I wait to the last second with everything, and oftentimes it screws me over. But with Game Time, it absolutely saves me. We've all been there, logging on early, waiting forever for concert tickets to go on sale, only to lose your spot for a show you've been dying to see. Live music should be about making memories and not dealing with the stress of ticket shopping, and that's also where Game Time comes in. Instead of having to, even if you don't want to wait until the last second, they obviously got you with great tickets beforehand. But if you're someone like me who waits to the last second, oftentimes everyone else, you get bad ticket prices, you get bad seats. With Game Time, they have last minute deals, even sometimes after the event has already started. And another thing I love about Game Time is that you get the view from your seat right within the app. No longer you get your tickets, show up, find out then if you like the seats. You know right there before you purchase whether these seats are the best for you. If I'm buying tickets for anything, sporting event, concert, whatever, I'm going through Game Time. Take the guesswork out of buying concert and show tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed with Game Time. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free to available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. Go to the description down below for the Substack, the Playback, and the Twitch channel. We've been streaming a lot of college football over there lately. We've had a few of you guys come over and hang out. If you guys want to see me just play some video games in the morning, I've been doing that a lot recently. So if you want to check that out, you can. I have some summer league stuff coming up on the Substack. Again, like I told you guys recently, haven't been able to find anywhere that clips the summer league, and my PC won't let me do it without blacking it out. So we're going to have to try and find a different way to cover the summer league, but I have something coming for you guys, definitely about Ron Holland as well. But let's go ahead and get into the offseason, Matt. So heading into this offseason, the Pistons, obviously, they're coming off a playoff appearance that, yes, they lost in the first round, but them simply getting there and ending the playoff win drought was amazing. Them pushing the Knicks to 6 was amazing. Coming just really one shot away from going into a Game 7 at Madison Square Garden. It was a great season, and they're going into the offseason with a ton of momentum, a ton of optimism. And some people wanted the Pistons to make a big move. This is the year. This is the offseason. You swing for the fences. You go out in a weak Eastern Conference and you try to take the East away. Especially, no one wants to see anyone get hurt, but especially when Tatum goes down and Hallie goes down. It's like, okay, well, if those guys are out, what's going on in the East? Like, is the East, like, how open really is it? And I think you've seen some other teams in the East obviously try to capitalize on that and be like, okay, this is an open East. We maybe could take advantage. Some people wanted the Pistons to do that. Now we're sitting here July 18th, and the Pistons really didn't do much. They lost Malik Beasley due to the whole gambling investigation. Dennis Schroeder went to the Kings. They lost him, but they replaced them with Duncan Robinson and Caris Levert. And that's really where their offseason ends. There's been a lot of conversation in the Pistons community. Do you like it? Do you dislike it? There's a bit of a civil war going on with it. Where do you stand with the Pistons offseason? Do you think it was enough, or do you think they should have done more?
Yeah, well, I think the first thing is like, okay, like, you look at Beasley and Schroeder, those are 2 of your 5 best players in that series against the Knicks, right? And you're like, man, like, we're losing those guys. And like, especially if you're a Pistons fan, right? And you don't watch the other 29 teams. So you look at Caris Levert, you're like, you hear his reputation, like, he's fine, whatever. Duncan Robinson, oh, he went to Michigan, shooter, blah, blah, blah. Caris Levert also went to Michigan, which is funny. But I would say, so think about it like in fantasy football terms, right? Say you're in a dynasty league, okay, and you're trying to trade for this guy who's at the peak of his value. Like, you're gonna have to fork over a pretty penny, right? And that's kind of like what I see with Schroeder and Beasley. Like, they were at the peak of their value coming into this offseason, where Beasley's coming off his career year. He shoots the ball better than he ever has one of the greatest shooting seasons in NBA history. Surely the greatest shooting season of any 6-man we've ever seen, right? And like, shooting is very, very volatile. What I mean by that, it changes a lot from year to year, right? Great shooters can go from 45% to 31% to 37% to 39%. It's not like every year you're penciled in for being a 40% three-point shooter. So there's a chance that Beasley could have a drastic fall off next year because so much of his value is derived from hitting threes, right? So if he's not hitting those shots anymore, that changes the math. It's not like he's getting any worse. The player shots just not falling sometimes, right? And so they were going to have to pay Beasley a ton, more than I think his value is. And with Schroeder, I've never been super, super high on Schroeder. I wrote an article before the postseason started that I think they should have played Marcus Sasser more than Schroeder. But that's my prerogative, right? Schroeder shut me up. But here's the thing that Schroeder did in that Knicks series. He shot the ball better than he ever has, right? So his value is skyrocketing. You can't trust Schroeder to be a 40% three-point shooter. We've seen this movie before. And then on defense, he has literally the perfect matchup for his skills, right? He's quick enough to guard Brunson. He's disciplined enough not to fall for all the tricks that Ausar was falling for early on in the series. And Brunson's not tall enough to make him pay for his size problem, right? So you have these 2 guys who are probably valued now by the league higher than they should be, right? If they were coming off a regular season or like a below average season by their standards, right? And you sub them out for 2 guys who the league is devalued a little bit, right? Whereas, like, to me, like, the way I see it, Caris Levert's just taller than Dennis Schroeder, right? He's a good on-ball defender. He's improved a lot over the years. Anybody who's been watching the Cavaliers will tell you that. He's a good on-ball defender. He is like that bucket getter, shaky shooter, right? Can get you a bucket, solid passer, right? Can be that creator for you off the second unit. and he's just bigger than Schroeder. So, size is very important in basketball, right? How much better of a basketball player would you be if you were 4 inches taller?
I mean, let's not get into that. We'll start getting into
Some
we'll
crazy
start
talk.
getting into some heartbreaks.
Okay. But so you have that, and then to me, Duncan Robinson has had that, I'm going to call it latent value, right? That value that comes with being this incredible shooter that Beasley was bringing last year, creating open shots, right? Just by being in action, not even touching the ball necessarily, because people were so worried about his shooting. Duncan Robinson had that reputation for years. And Duncan Robinson has very quietly in Miami been improving his on-ball game to become a better passer, a better driver, right? So to me, you're getting an upgrade there in terms of, like, you got a better shooter, a better kind of version of this player archetype, this off-ball player creator. Now in defense, I don't think he's as good of a defender as Beasley. I think Eric Spoelstra, even with how creative he is as a coach with his defenses and all the crazy zones he'd run, he couldn't even hide Duncan Robinson like fully, like he was still limited. He's still a bench player. But to me, I think you get out of paying two guys higher than you probably should. Like, I don't think Schroeder is a $14 million per year player. Like, for me, he's like a $10 million player, and I know it's $4 million, but $4 million is a lot of money, So I think you get two guys a little bit below their market value and get rid of two guys that were getting rated a little bit above their market value.
All right, so I want you to try to convince me on this because I agree with you completely on Duncan Robinson. I think you can make a strong argument that Duncan Robinson is better than Malik, and Malik had just like you mentioned, I don't want to say outlier because he is a shooter, but he had an outlier historical shooting season. Like, was he going to come back and shoot 300 made threes and do something only Steph and Clay have ever was he going to do that? Probably not. And then before this past year, Duncan, like you mentioned, he's better playmaker. He's a better driver. He moves better without the ball. When he gets top locked and denied, Malik would oftentimes kind of just stand around and try to still get around for the DHO. Duncan comes off getting top locked or denied. He's immediately backdoor cutting, circling around to the other court and running a DHO on the other side. Like he's constantly moving and opening up stuff within your offense because of his movement. Go ahead.
Duncan's also a little taller. Back to the size thing. He's got a couple inches on him. It's not meaningful, but I just wanted to add that.
No, for sure. No, I think it is meaningful being bigger than Malik. They're trying to add size. So I buy the Duncan part. I was very I will say outspoken that I did not like the Caris Levert signing.
I saw it. Don't worry, man.
I was not happy about the Caris Levert signing. So I'll give you a brief reason why, and I want you to try to convince me why I should not believe this. The first 7 years of his career, he was one of the most inefficient scorers in the league. He was around 51, 52 true shooting percentage. Now, this past year, he did jump. He jumped to around 58, 59 true shooting percentage. He started taking better shots this past year. I think his three-point rate jumped by like 5-6%. Started taking more threes. He did get better as an on-ball defender throughout his career. I haven't watched enough of him to say that he's been this great defender, but I'll trust the people who say he's gotten better in that regard. Convince me why I should believe in. I'll buy the size, the length, and his improvement on defense. I'll buy all that. Why should I believe that? Because he's known as a bucket getter, but for the vast majority of his career, he hasn't been an efficient bucket getter. Convince me on why I should believe that this past year is who he really is now, and it's not just an outlier year like Beasley when it comes to the 300 threes. Convince me why I should think that he's this efficient scorer now and not the guy he was the first 7 years of his career.
Okay, so first of all, you have to compare. Okay, so in isolation, yes, Caris Levert's not one of my top 100 players in the league, but you have to think about it in this situation, right? So what did you lose by getting Caris Levert? What do you think was better out there for us?
Better as in to replace Schroeder?
Yeah. That we could have realistically had.
There's a few, few of the point guards that were out. I mean, I would say a few of the veteran point guards, maybe like a Tyus, someone like that.
Well, Tyus has a history of not being playable in the playoffs because he's too small. There's that. Tyus is a pretty, he's a floor general guy, right? And you don't really need a floor general. You have Cade Cunningham. And it's funny you mentioned the thing about Caris being an inefficient scorer for his career. For his career, 53.3% true shooting. No bueno. Not good. I would not be happy with that on my team. What is Dennis Schroeder's? You want to take a guess real quick?
Nah, this is fair. This is a fair point. Because I believe Schroeder, before the playoffs this past year, I believe he was at 51, 50 true shooting with the Pistons.
So like I said, Caris Levert, excuse me, career 53.3% true shooting. Dennis Schroeder, career 53.1% true shooting. Like it's not that different, and then you just get a little bit more size. It's the same type of player. Like, so Tyus Jones? Give me some more. Let's talk through this.
Okay.
I don't think Tyus Jones is better than Caris Levert, in my opinion.
Okay. I mean, Tyus's defense is fair enough because his defense
I think
is
this is a negative, a clear negative.
Yeah.
And then offensively, I mean, he's not like he's a good shooter, but is he really? Would you really call him a spacer per se? And then, like, I think the assist to turnover thing is very overstated. Like, it's just because, like, so there's like this whole thing, right? They call it like the Jason Kidd, Stephon Marbury corollary, right? Where it's like Stephon Marbury had this incredible like assist to turnover ratio, right, on the Nets the year before Kidd got there, but their offense was. And then Kidd comes in and he's turning the ball over a lot more, but their offense gets much better. And it's because Kidd is making passes that break the defense. He's taking risky passes. He's not always making that simple, one pass away pass, right? The right guy next to him right there, like boom, like he's trying to break the defense, get layups, get open threes. And I think that's the Tyus Jones, like Stephon Marbury to me. He's just like, he makes a lot of smart passes. He doesn't turn the ball over because he doesn't make too many gambles. So that's just my read on him as a player. Nothing against the guy. I can't hear you, Koo.
Oops, my fault, everybody. I have my mic muted. That's my fault. What I was
should have just let
saying
you
was,
keep going.
yeah, that would have been tough. It would have been a bunch of dead air. but we're gonna get to the ad break. When we come back, I'll give you more point guards, and we'll continue.
Okay.
We'll continue the discussion about the offseason, and then we'll transition. We'll spend more time. We'll have like 15 minutes to talk about it in the last segment about the rest of this offseason talk, and then what you think about them moving into the future, what they need to do, where they stand up in the East going into this season. But that's coming up. Stay tuned. Today's episode is brought to you guys by OpenPhone. If you're running a business, you know that every missed call is money left on the table. Think about the last time you had an urgent need, maybe for a plumber or a service provider. If the first person didn't answer, did you wait for him to respond? Probably not. You moved on to the next person, and that's why you need OpenPhone. OpenPhone is the #1 business phone system built to streamline and scale your customer communications, all from an app on your phone or computer. The shared inbox feature is a game changer. Your team can jump into any conversation instantly without missing a beat. And their AI agent handles the after-hour calls, answers common questions, and captures leads so you never miss a single customer. OpenPhone is offering my listeners 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/lockedonnba. That's openphone.com/lockedonnba. And if you have existing numbers, with another service, OpenPhone will port them over at no extra charge. That's with OpenPhone. No missed calls, no missed customers with OpenPhone. So I want to thank you guys again. Make Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. Free and available on all your podcast platforms. Hit that subscribe on the YouTube channel. Leave us a 5-star review, whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. You guys get all of that. You guys know it. Description down below, all that good stuff. All right, let's get back into our conversation about the offseason compare and talking about Caris Levert. And then we'll move into, I do want to make sure we spend at least 10 minutes or so on the future and getting your thoughts on that. So this would what I would say in regards to Caris. I will buy, especially for the money. I do agree with you. Schroeder got very much overpaid, and he's not. Appreciate everything he did, but I wouldn't have paid him that much either. And I also will buy that he's just a bigger, better version of Dennis. I'll buy that. So I brought up Tyus. I thought Tyus would have been fine. The thing is with these point guards, the other one I would have been fine with. He still isn't signed, I don't believe, because he has injury concerns, which is a big no-no with Trajan. But Brogdon. The other thing I would have brought up is this. Instead of getting a point guard, it sounds like the Pistons want to give a lot of those reps to Jaden Ivey. They've said it a few times. So if that was the route, because Levert can play on ball some, and he's, that's where he really is used as on ball. But it sounds like they want to give a lot of those reps to Ivey. If that was the case, I would have been fine getting someone who was if you want to give the backup point guard minutes to Ivey, I would have went out and got an off-ball scorer type next to Ivey off the bench and just got someone who could score the ball more efficiently. Like, for example, they were rumored to be interested, and I reported and heard that they were not interested, but there was talks of a potential Malik Monk trade, and that kind of fell through because they already had Levert. So, would I have rather had Ivey and then Monk playing off of that, or Ivey and Levert, like I'm assuming they're going to lead the bench unit, even though Ivy will start. I would rather have Monk. I think Monk's better. I would rather have him with Ivy, but I will concede that he's definitely better than Schroeder.
Mm-hmm.
My concern is this: he is more efficient than Schroeder, but Schroeder's also like not efficient himself. I just
No, I mean,
question.
neither one's a great option. I will
Yes,
say that. Like,
right.
if I'm building a team, but again, you have to deal with what's available. And my question to you, because I'm not tapped into that situation, because I would also prefer Malik Monk. Like in the isolation, whatever. Like the two players, I think Malik Monk's just a significantly better basketball player, and I do like his fit with the Pistons. But like, was he like how much would they have to have given up? You know what I mean? Like, was he
So
really available to them?
So from what I understand is what was going to happen, what they were trying to make happen,
Mhm.
the Kings wanted to reroute Monk, or not reroute, but to send Monk to the Pistons in the Dennis Schroeder sign and trade to create that cap flexibility to get that MLE and
Mhm.
open that up and through some kind of cap hoops, be able to maybe go after Russell Westbrook that they were rumored to go after. They wanted to get, from what I was told, they wanted Russ and Schroeder for a minute
That's
there.
just yeah. That
It
team
didn't
is
make
something
any
else,
sense.
man. That team is something else. Keep going. I'm
I
sorry.
didn't understand that. And then they also wanted to go after Kuminga, but they wanted to
Mhm.
create this. They wanted to get off of Monk's contract so they could get Kuminga and still be able to do other
Mhm.
things. My understanding was the Pistons just didn't want the extra year that Malik Monk had. They want to keep the next 2 years flexible, and he has a 3-year deal. So the fact that he had a third year on the contract, the Pistons backed out of it because they didn't really want the long-term salary. So that's what, from what I was told, is what ended the conversations basically from that.
Well, I'll say this with the new trend that's going on with so Malik's a combo guard, right? Malik Monk's what you call a combo guard. And we've seen this offseason that like the NBA doesn't really value combo guards like that anymore. Malik Monk is signed to a long-term deal. Like for example, Norman Powell, the Heat get him for
Yep.
nothing, right? He's on this expiring deal. Um, who's the other name I just said? Colin
Colin
Sexton.
Sexton. Yeah,
Yeah,
and I don't
nothing.
think he got a
So
second. I think he was
no,
attached with the
they had to
second.
attach a second, and
Yeah.
then like everybody said like Drew Holiday is like this negative contract now, right? The Celtics got Anthony Simons back for him, right? They didn't have to give up any picks. That's what tells you like that'll tell you what the league thinks of these players now. So I understand what they're saying. I think Monk's on a better contract than most of those guys because he's only in that like high teens, not like the low 20s, high 20s. But I mean, again, I would like to have Monk over Levert, but I don't think it's like devastating. Like the way I look at it is like, yes, I agree with you. It's not. I don't think that move's as great as the Duncan Robinson move, which by the way, I don't also love 100% because I think they overpaid him a little bit, or at least I thought he would take less because he was getting that buyout money from Miami. But in like, if you look at it just from like Schroeder, Levert, like I think it's just an upgrade. So I'm happy with it. The
Right.
move that really I know we got to get to the future in a second, but the move that I actually disliked the most was the Paul Reed re-signing. I'm like, why are you not paying a vet minimum for your third string center? That was just the one thing, and maybe it's because they plan on trading him at some point in the season. Like I don't know what the long term vision is, but that one was kind of like you could save like $2 million a year here, but I guess I don't know. I'm not going to count the guy's dollars. He's a very very nice guy, by the way,
No, yeah, Paul Reed
as you know.
is a
Yeah,
very
yeah,
dope
as you
dude.
know. Mhm.
No, yeah, he's a dope dude. But yeah, I arrived at the same place you arrived at. I think that this season this offseason at the very least you stayed the same. You
Mhm.
can make an argument that they upgraded.
Mhm.
But there's some out there that wanted this big swing, and Trajan said over and over that big swing wasn't coming. I like the Duncan Robinson move. I can be talked into the Levert move, even though I'm not huge into it. But it's not like I don't think they got worse. Like Levert
Mhm.
isn't worse than Schroeder, and I think Duncan probably is better than Malik. So I think the offseason, I gave them a C plus. I thought they passed. I thought they did fine, especially with the Malik news happening last minute right before free agency. They had to pivot quickly. I thought they did fine with it.
Mhm.
Is there anything else you want to say about the offseason before we move into the future?
No, I'm good there.
All right, so let's hit the future now. So obviously, there's been a lot of talk about what should be expected from the Pistons next year. Should they sign Ivy and Duren to these extensions? Is this the core to build around? Is this these 4 guys, or really 5 guys maybe, with Cade, Ausar, Ron, Ivy, Duren? Is that your core? Are you gonna maybe trade one of them at the deadline? Are you expecting to take another step this year? There's so much talk about what the Pistons' future is going to look like. Where do you stand with this team moving into the 25-26 season in this Eastern Conference with some of the uncertainty around the extensions for Ivy, Duren? Just where are you at with this team right now?
It's tough. So I mean, this is the hardest part right here. This is way
It
harder
is.
than
I'm
what the
glad you
Pistons
said
did
that
last year.
because
I
I'm glad you said that because fans, I've said this throughout the whole season last year, like especially in the playoffs. This is the best part because there's no expectations. You don't have to make any crazy decisions, no heartbreaking decisions. Like you're not like you just enjoy this. But this is, I'm glad you said this is 100% the part that either takes you to the next step or you make a mistake and you fall backwards 3 steps. Like this is when stuff gets tough.
What's that? I think it's Spider-Man, right? They where he says like, they build you up so they can tear you down,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And no, so
Yes.
this is like honestly, like I would argue that what the year the Pistons had last year it's going to end up being more joyous than if they win a title with this crew. Because if you win a title, right? Unless they do it next year, which is different, because then they don't have any scrutiny. But it's probably you're gonna have your trial and error, right? You're gonna have some scrutiny. There's gonna be questions: is Cade Cunningham a closer? Is he a killer? Is X person this, that? There's gonna be the scrutiny, and they're gonna have a 3-game losing streak or something when they're a 1 seed in the Eastern Conference, and people are gonna be like, oh, did everybody figure the Pistons out? There's gonna be all this drama around it. Last year, it's like no matter what happened, like people were just happy. They lose the last 2 games to the Bucks at the end of the regular season and lose the 5th seed, whatever. People are like, oh, I mean, we're the 6th seed. Like, we don't have to play a play-in game. They lose to the Knicks in dramatic fashion, but it's like beat the Knicks twice. The Knicks went to the Eastern Conference Finals. They were 2 wins away from being in the NBA Finals, right? So there's that. I compare them a lot. We were just talking about them to that Sacramento Kings team from the Light the Beam team, right? From what is it, 2022, 2023, I think, where it's like, they had this fun run. They were the 3rd seed in the West, and they took the Warriors to 7, and then they haven't been to the playoffs since. It's so hard to go from, bad to good than it is good to great. And when I look at this team, I'm like, okay, what would need to happen, right? They still have those veterans. They have the adults in the room still, right? They have different adults, but they still have adults in the room with Tobias, Duncan, and Levert. But so what's Cade's next level? Does he have a next level? You know what I mean? Like, to me right now, I know you're a little higher on than me. I know most Pistons fans are higher than me. I think he's like between 20 and 25, like in terms of players in the league to me. Top 20, he's like top 25, maybe pushing top 15. I don't think he's in the top 15, right? Can he get into that conversation? Can he be like a 12? Can he take like the Jalen Brunson leap, like go from being an all-star to a fringe top 10 player? Does he have that? Does he have that gear? What would that take? Probably got to be a better finisher around the rim. Probably a better shooter, right? Can he do that? That's a question. That's going to have to happen for sure. And then, like, which other young guys want to emerge? I saw a lot from Jalen Duren in that playoff series. I was not a huge Jalen Duren guy before that playoff series, but I saw the vision. He was rim running. He was making passes out the short roll, great rim protection. They didn't miss Isaiah Stewart on defense, which is crazy because he was like the glue of that defense. I'm surprised we haven't even mentioned him yet, but he was really the catalyst of that defense outside of Ausar Thompson. Like, his plus minus on the defense side of the ball was incredible.
It was, yeah.
Does Jalen Duren want to step up? Is Jaden Ivey going to take a leap? Ausar Thompson, Ron Holland, they're both tricky players to build around because their floor is so high, right? They're both like already like rotation level NBA players. Ausar is already like a starting caliber lever play in this league because their defense, their effort, their athleticism. But can they do the things on offense? Can they make the leap they need to make? And this is such a hard leap to make. So many guys get drafted like Ron Holland, or like, man, if this guy could figure out the shot, like, he'd be a freak. But it's hard. It's hard to learn how to shoot in the NBA. It is super hard. That is not an easy thing to do. So those are big questions. So I think it really just the Kings. The problem with the Kings is they didn't, and the Bulls too. The year before that, right? The Bulls with DeMar and Zach and Caruso and Lonzo. They didn't have any young guys really like to. I mean, Kings had Keegan Murray, but other than that, that's a big burden to put on Keegan Murray, right? You're putting the weight of the world. Like, Keegan Murray's gotten a lot better over the years. That's a different conversation for a different day. But the Pistons have young guys. Now, we just named five young guys. Put 6 in there with Sasser, right? I'm still got my Sasser stock. Can like 2 or 3 of those guys take a meaningful leap? Not just like the leap. I'm not, because every year you're gonna get better. When you're a young player, you're going to get a little bit better. You're going to be a little bit better of a passer. You're going to be a little bit better of a team defender, a little bit better of a communicator. But is it a meaningful leap, right? Can Cade go from top 25 to top 15 to top 10? Can Duren go from, solid starting center to like Ivica Zubac level? Can he get to that level? Very, very good center, right? Can Ausar turn into like our version of Aaron Gordon on offense, where he's in the dunker spot? he's aggressive driving. He's scoring at a higher volume. Maybe he can hit some corner threes more often, right? Can he do that? Can Jaden Ivey be more consistent, more efficient, more aware off ball on defense? So that's really the big question here. And I think the Pistons are better suited than those surprise teams of the past to take that next lead because they still have young guys. But I don't look at any of their young guys, being completely honest. I watch all 30 teams. None of their young guys really, like, other than Cade. I think Cade's phenomenal. But like the other guys we talked about, I don't see it like a surefire, like this guy's going to take the jump. Like there's question marks.
All right. So with that, we're getting towards the end of the podcast. I do want to get this from you.
Mm-hmm.
Would you, if you were the Pistons, do you feel comfortable extending either Duren or Ivey at this point in the offseason? Would you do it, or would you rock it out?
What's the number I'm extending them on?
If they're under 25, I think the Pistons would do it, but I don't see Duren or Ivey wanting under 25. I don't think either of them would. I know for a fact, I won't say which one, but I've been told one of them would not take less than that. So won't say which one. But
Okay.
let's just say both of them around 25 plus. I don't know, like 4 years, 110, something like 4 110, something like that.
So at their current state, I want to say, okay, I for sure, I want to say this real quick. I think I'd be more comfortable extending Duren. I've seen more from him. I mean, it's given. I've seen him in the playoffs, which is already more than I've seen from Ivy, right? So I feel more comfortable with Duren. I don't feel super comfortable extending either of them yet because not because I don't think they're good players, but because like the type of player they are is very easy to find on the open market right now. Duren, he's just like a rim protecting big. He hasn't really taken that next step to where it's like, I'm the best at this. You know what I mean? Like I'm one of the best at this, right? Like I just said, Ivica Zubac, right? He's incredible at what he does. It's the skill set, like in isolation, is very easy to find, but like, can you like become the best at? Can you become like Jared Allen, where like anytime they try to switch a small on you, oh, I have my left hook. Here's my right hook. Like here's my jump stop finish, right? Whatever. Just becoming like just the best version of that. So he hasn't done that yet. And then we just talked about it with the combo guards, and that's all Ivy is right now. That's all he's proven to us. He is like a spark plug combo guard. You know what I mean? So is he more than that? If not, like I'd kind of be like, sorry, dude, this is what I'm giving you. Like I can go get a Malik Monk, and replace you. Like I don't like, these are good human beings. Again, I don't mean to talk about them like they're pieces on a chessboard, but this is how business is done in this league. So no, I don't feel super comfortable extending either one of them yet. But I would, if I had to pick one, it'd be Duren.
All right, I agree with you. I wouldn't extend either right now. I'm not confident in it. Last question, then we'll wrap it up. Do you think this season, because a lot of fans feel like, and I think they're probably right in feeling this way, that while no big move was made during the offseason, that depending on the results that you get from some of the young guys, there may be, whether it's a big move or just making a decision about where you're going future, you might see some changes made at the deadline. Do you think that's probably going to happen, or do you still think the Pistons will be quiet throughout the season?
I'm not sure. I'm curious how much they're monitored, because I think the best player for this team right now and how Cade likes to play basketball, if they could get Devin Booker, I would really like that. And I wonder how much Devin Booker is gonna hang around in Phoenix, because I have no reporting on this, but it's just like you kind of look at how that place is being run, and it's like them and the Kings are just taking turns doing the dumbest you've ever seen, right? So it's like, now I will say, like, the Suns do have like some semblance of a roster. I mean, right now, like they actually have like a 3-and-D guy in Dylan Brooks. They have a center now, so they kind of have like a basketball team, which is more than I can say about the Kings, which is basically like, are you guys going to play like 4 guard lineups next year? Like, what's going on with that? But so I wonder if the Pistons are standing pat, try to build up their assets, let time go by, so more draft picks become tradable, so they can make that swing at Devin Booker when the time comes. So you want to keep an Ivy in that situation because he'd be good matching salary. You know what I mean? But yeah, I don't know. I have to see what they do in the first half of the season. If this team's like pushing, like they're a top 3 team in the East, they're feeling good. Cade's looking like an All NBA, like a real legit, like nobody's hurt All NBA player, right? I could see them making a move, but again, there's so much uncertainty with this team just because of how the roster is constructed, where it's like you have this even blend of young guys and veterans, and it's a fun team. It's gonna be an exciting year for sure.
All right, last thing quickly. Where do you predict they finish? In the East.
So
In the East.
can I do this out loud? Like my thinking out loud.
Go ahead.
Okay, so Cavs are probably the best team in the East to me right now. I think the Knicks aren't too far behind. Magic are really good this year. So those are three teams I think that are probably better than the Pistons. I think the Knicks and maybe I guess I can't say the Knicks are for sure better than the Pistons. The Pistons just took them to 6, but we'll go okay for sure Cleveland, and then I'd probably say Knicks, Magic. I don't know, I think the Bucks might be a regular season juggernaut. I just kind of have this weird feeling about them. I love Ryan Rollins, Dakota native, right?
Yeah, I was about to say, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, is there anyone clearly better than the Pistons? I know I'm taking a lot of time. We're getting over the 40 minutes. Let me get the Eastern Conference up in my favor. Eastern Conference standings.
I'm going to guess that you end up at 6 seed, that they stay
Okay.
6. That's what my guess
that was my initial reaction. Okay, I think they're probably better than the Celtics, even with Brown and White. They don't even have a center right now. So yeah, they're better than the Celtics. The Heat are scary. I don't know what to make of the 76ers. I'd say 5th. I'll give them 5th. I would say one of the Heat. The Heat. Oh, the Hawks. I forgot about the Hawks. The Hawks are better. Okay, I'm gonna go 6th. Yeah, I'm with you on 6th.
Okay,
I'm gonna with
fair
you.
enough.
So I'll say for sure. My prediction would be that those 3 teams I mentioned in the beginning, the Hawks will be better than those 4, and then I think one of the Heat, the 76ers, or what was the other team I had? The Heat, 76ers, or Bucks. One of those 3 teams will be better than them too.
All right, fair enough. We'll wrap it up.
I wouldn't be mad at succeed.
I'm interested to see what fans would feel like if they came back as the 6th seed again. I'd be interested to see what I feel like a lot of the expectations are. We want a playoff win. I don't know if that's coming, or a playoff series, I should say. But we'll wrap it up there. Appreciate you, Matt. Let everybody know where they can find you and your work real quick before we get up out of here.
Yeah, and just at Matt Issa 15 on Twitter, at MATISSA 15, and I actually started a TikTok. I'm doing TikTok videos, so at Issa Hoops, at Issa.hoops, so it's at ISSA.hoops. I'm sure you guys know how to spell that if you're basketball fans, but yeah.
All right. Appreciate you coming on. I appreciate all of you guys making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. Free and available on all your podcast platforms. Hit that subscribe button to the YouTube channel. Leave us a 5-star review, whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. And until next time, I'll see you guys later. Stay safe out there. And until next time, peace out, everybody.